We're live. I'd like to welcome everyone out to. Don't want to do that for an intro. Welcome to episode 24 of 1530. Today we're going to be discussing the 2019 season, who the standout players were, who improved the most, and just see kind of what the numbers showed and how the young guns did. We obviously know Djokovic and Nadal had both great years. We want to see how other players did as well. My name's Ben.
I'm Matt. And why don't you start us off with the stat of the day, Ben?
Let's do the stat of the day. So we want to go back to the World Tour Finals. They were played in London, and Dominic Thiem and Stefano Tsitsipas were in the final. It was actually a really good match. It ended up going 3 sets. It was pretty tight, and it was a third set tiebreaker that Tsitsipas ended up winning. But it was interesting that Thiem was able to fight and to push for a third set because, honestly, overall, the points and the statistics showed kind of a different story. Tsitsipas was winning 75% of his service points, and he was winning 35% return points. So overall, he won 54% of the total points won. So I think that's great credit not only to Tsitsipas's great serving and good enough returning to get some of those points, but also Thiem. He's such a fighter. Even though Tsitsipas was kind of outplaying him, he was still able to force a third set tiebreaker, and it was really anybody's match to win. Of course, Tsitsipas came out on top, but had Thiem won, it would have reminded me a little bit of the Federer-Djokovic Wimbledon final because Thiem was able to win a lot of the important points to kind of get back into that match. But any thoughts, Matt, on Tsitsipas being the ATP World Tour Finals winner? It's weird. We've had several different winners the last few years. Not really any consistency in the last few years.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting, right? You can pretty much count on the big four for the Grand Slams. But that last tournament is always kind of a wild card. Rafa didn't even make it out of the round robin because of Zverev, because Zverev beat him in that round robin, and then did enough to make it out of there. But no, I think it's great. I think it's great for Tsitsipas. He has a lot of potential. He showed that at different points throughout the year, and we can talk about that a little bit. But so it was just a nice culmination at the end for him. I think maybe some other players that had been streaking there at the end of the year maybe were a little bit worn down. Medvedev being one of them. Maybe just kind of burned out. Tsitsipas, I don't remember how he did in the U.S. Open, but probably maybe had a little more gas in the tank at the end there and was able to play and make it. Yeah. So I think it's great. I think it's great to see some changes there. At least have one tournament where we get some fresh faces holding up the trophy at the end. It's cool.
Yeah. Because I think the previous year it was Alexander Zverev taking on the trophy, beating Novak Djokovic in the final of all people. And then before that, it was Grigor Dimitrov beating Goffin. So, yeah, kind of weird that, Federer's dominated the tournament. Djokovic for a few years in a row would win it every year. Now, the last few years, we can't really get the repeat winner. It's always someone different. I was under my prediction was whoever was going to be aggressive and play really aggressive indoor tennis would win the tournament. And I thought going in, Roger Federer had a good chance with not having to face Djokovic or Nadal to get there. But Tsitsipas, he was just way too good. And we'll get into those stats. And Tsitsipas did play that good indoor tennis. He was dominating, and that ultimately was the difference maker. So kind of a good prediction, but I picked the wrong player. Tsitsipas kind of out-Federered Federer.
Sure did.
It was an interesting match. But first, let's go through some of the other numbers of that final. Looking at Dominic Thiem, it was a pretty long final. It was 2.5 hours. Like I said, Thiem definitely was able to kind of grit it out. Looking at the first serve percentage, though, Thiem was able to spin in a little bit more serves, get more serves in than Tsitsipas, sorry. So 69% for Thiem versus 62% for Tsitsipas. But again, that first serve points won. Tsitsipas was just so good, 83%. He had a lot of great volleys up in the net and a lot of just attacking first strike tennis that I'm always a big fan of watching. And then the second serve points won. Thiem still above 50%, 52%, but Tsitsipas 62%. And Tsitsipas was they both did a good job on break points. Thiem saved 70%. Tsitsipas saved 75%. And then we've kind of already gone over the return numbers. Tsitsipas was just better on the day returning. So overall, I think a great match for the fans. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was high quality tennis. If the big four really are dead or they're not going to be as dominant, I'm okay with what the future has with tennis. But I think team was pretty lucky to get to that third set tiebreak.
I agree. And yeah, that's the interesting thing, right? 2 of those 3 sets went to a tiebreak. And so obviously a very close match all the way from the beginning to the end. So good tennis to be watched.
Yeah, and kind of satisfying in the championship match to have it decided by a tiebreak.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it more intense, more thrilling for the fans. People were freaking out there at the end. It was pretty fun. So let's go looking at the semifinals that led up to that. So I mentioned Tsitsipas defeated Roger Federer. And that was a weird match on a lot of levels. Tsitsipas, once he got the break, he just kind of ran away with it. There was a few moments of the match where Federer was trying to swing the pendulum back his way, and he would get break points, and then Tsitsipas continually would save him. There's a lot of really long deuce games. But ultimately, Tsitsipas, he showed that he had some grit too. He had some mental toughness there. He saved 92% of break points. That's the toughness I'm talking about. Versus Federer, saved 25%, even though he didn't serve the best, but still not even good enough to get out of a lot of these break chances that he had. For the first serve percentage, Federer was a little bit lower. It was 56%. That's lower than you used to seeing him have. Tsitsipas 63%. First serve points won. Federer had 70% to Tsitsipas 64%. But second serve, Federer was just getting lit up on that. He only won 46% of second serve points won. Tsitsipas won a very good percentage of 55%. So that's kind of what it came down to. Federer only won 47% of the points to 53% to Tsitsipas, and he couldn't take advantage of those break points. He had chances to get back in the match and level it, and it was a straight set affair. It was a pretty fast match in that regard. So kind of surprising. I was pretty surprised to see that. I thought he would at least push it to 3 sets, but credit to Tsitsipas for bending but not breaking to Federer.
Yeah, absolutely. You already said it, but Tsitsipas has a style very similar to Federer, and I think he was playing that style very well in this match, especially. And so, he executed really well. As you said, those break points, that percentage, I feel like is huge. Fed obviously had a lot of opportunities to break and either stay in the match or grab a set or take control of it, but he wasn't able to convert those critical points.
Yeah, and it was weird because on some of those points, Federer would play defensive or just like focus on getting the ball in, and then he would, focus on getting it in, maybe spin it in, and then Tsitsipas would just crush it in the opposite corner. So he was just, like you're saying, he was kind of out Federering Federer. He was playing so offensive that, taking a little bit off it was actually kind of hurting Federer at times. And he started to miss some, but it was just really just Tsitsipas was just finding his corners and hitting a lot of really good winners. That's what it was. He had a great day.
Yeah, it's hard to win when you're playing against that. We'll do it.
Pretty much, yeah. And on the other semifinal, it was also a straight set affair. Team defeated Zverev. Zverev did a good job making it into the semifinals, but again, kind of fell short, kind of maybe representing his year overall. Not the best year for him. He aced on 12% of his points, which, seeing that number alone, I'm kind of surprised that he lost or at least didn't push it to 3 sets compared to 9% for team. Both guys were acing a decent amount. But Zverev, 60% on the double faults and team only 3%. So I don't know if he was just trying to go for it too much on serve or, again, if he's mentally just not there. But I think he double faulted on a set point, if I remember, or on a really, really big point, maybe a break point. So not the best day for Zverev. He won a good amount of first serve points, 68%. It's not terrible, but team was just like untouchable. He was 81%. So, and then the second serve, both were in the 50s. Team was bordering on the 60s, though, 59%. Zverev is at 50%. And so ultimately break points, kind of again coming down to who was clutch in the moment. Team saved all of his break points, 100%. Zverev saved 60%. So team was just better in the moment with those big first serves, trying to find a way to win. And Zverev just, he got some aces, but it came at a cost, I think. He double faulted too much. So ultimately, Zverev only won 28% return points to team's 36%, and then that's the match, kind of dominating match by team, winning 55% of the points overall.
Yeah,
and it was a pretty fast match too, an hour and a half. That's a faster one for someone like Team who is known to take longer in these matches, grinding it out.
Yeah, that's a big number because we said a couple episodes ago, 51% was the average. What was it? Or if you won like 52%, then you had a good chance of winning the match. So yeah, sitting at 55% is like
right.
Huge. That's way.
Yeah, it's like no contest, like you're saying. Statistically, you're gonna win the match if you win 55%. Because winning, 52 or 52.5, whatever we said, you're gonna win that match statistically too. So yeah, it's a good point you bring up. 55% doesn't seem like a lot, but in tennis, that's like getting blown out of a basketball game by 30.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess so we had the final tournament of the year. It was pretty exciting, even though there was no Big Four in the final, which interesting there. But any players, Matt, from 2019 that really impressed you, or anyone that you want to talk about in particular?
We've already talked about them. Obviously, there are a number of players that kind of stood out. When we started 2019, we talked about the young guns coming up, or maybe possible outliers or people that were going to have breakout seasons. I mentioned Goffin. I'm still a big fan of him, but he did not produce results this season. So I was a little bit off the mark on that one. That's all right, though. I mean, we've already talked about Tsitsipas a little bit from that tournament. Obviously, a great culmination of the year for him, a great way to end the year. Hopefully, he can carry that momentum into the Aussie Open and do some good stuff there. I think Medvedev obviously had a stellar second half of this season, right? After the French Open, or I guess after Wimbledon, when Wimbledon, and then whatever. Once the clay court or the hard court season started, he just kind of rocketed out and played super well. He got to 3 finals and the Masters tournaments leading up to the U.S. Open, and then made it to the finals. Is that right?
Yes, to the U.S. Open finals. Yep.
Yeah, to the U.S. Open finals. So playing super, super well. Just a really, really well done. Obviously, I think he petered out there at the end, but obviously building a strong foundation, making his name known, and getting invited to the final tournament, and again, see if he can do some good things. If we look at kind of his 2019 season stats compared to just the year before in 2018, how do I say this? Increased his stats in pretty much every area. So his first serve percentage was up 2 points. His first serve win percentage was up 1.5 points. His second serve win percentage was up almost 4 points. So these are good things to see, right? He improved in multiple areas of his game. He was winning more break points, winning more return points. And so just overall, playing cleaner tennis, playing better tennis, which is, going to produce results at some point. And he saw that very, very clearly in the hard court second half of the season. So I thought that was interesting to see.
Yeah, I agree. Looking at his numbers, like you said, they've kind of impressive across the board. Even going up 2% in every category is very significant when it comes to tennis. But I'm really looking at his returning numbers. He's up 4% on second serve return points won, up 4% on break points won, up 3% overall on return points won, and that's translating to 5% more, or 4.5% more, return games won. That is hugely significant. And overall, that led him to be winning almost 9% more matches. Mm-hmm. So his serve got better, but I think his, just being out there with the big guys, being able to read serves well, it's translating to him breaking quite a bit. And not to mention, like I said, he's a pretty tall dude. He's got a great serve. And so if he's breaking as much as he did, no wonder why he just blew through everyone in the hard courts, because he's breaking everyone. He's breaking Djokovic,
right?
Beat him pretty easily in Cincinnati, actually. So Yeah, he's got a lot of upside. I mean, if he improves even, a little bit, I think he could be in contention for majors. But again, it remains to be seen. It's a long season. He did get a little bit burned out toward the end, but the guy's a force to be reckoned with on hard courts. I'm really interested to see if he can have success on clay or grass. I feel like he could do good, especially on grass. But I mean, why not any surface if he's breaking the way he is?
Yeah, I agree. I think grass especially. I don't. Yeah. I think. I mean, obviously, you can do well on clay. I think Rafa and team are just too good. The both of them. It's going to be hard for anybody to really pull out any majors, or at least the French.
Yeah. I mean, they're the gold standard. I mean, yeah. I was thinking, a few years ago, Djokovic Nadal had one of the best. I think it was a semifinal in the Roland Garros, like one of the best clay matches. But now team has beaten Djok a couple times in the semis, and it seems to be team and Nadal. Last couple of years in the finals, so they really are the gold standard. And I don't want to pick against Rafa, but I really do think team can win a French Open. He's got the game to win.
Yep, I agree.
A player I'm impressed with. So let me just read you. You probably already know, but let's go ahead and read to our listeners the top 10 in ATP rankings. So the first three shouldn't come as a surprise. You have Rafael Nadal, took home 2 slams. He won the Roland Garros, the French Open, and the U.S. Open. So naturally, he's the number one player. Djokovic also took home 2 slams, Wimbledon, and the Australian Open. He's number 2. Federer didn't have any slams, number 3, but he did have some big tournaments like Miami and such, other tournaments. Team was number 4, so our French Open runner-up. Number 5, Medvedev, right? So the first 4 we're kind of used to seeing being at the top of the rankings. Medvedev's number 5. So just having that great second half of the season, I think really propelled him above the rest. Number 6, Tsitsipas. Again, he had a really good start to the season, making the Australian Open semifinals. Then kind of had a bad middle part of the season, but again, kind of recovered toward the end and had a pretty good, especially indoor tennis season. And then Zverev, number 7, even though, we give him such a hard time, he's had a rough year, especially by the standards that he wants, to be going deep into majors. He still hasn't gone deep in majors, really.
Yeah, I feel like we say that every year about Zverev. He's had a rough year.
Right?
He's had a rough year.
He's had a rough year, yeah, but still, he's number 7.
He hangs around. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to be in the top 10. The top 10 is just, it's amazing the amount of talent needed and the consistency. He's done pretty well at these Masters tournaments. He just has to figure out the slams. I don't know what it's going to take because it seems like he goes to set down and then he has to fight back. The whole tournament he's doing that. So
yeah, and that's the thing, right? I mean, we say, yeah, he's not winning these Grand Slams. He's not getting to the finals, but he's consistently there. I think he may have bowed out in one Grand Slam pretty early, but I think he made it to the second week on the other 3. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but he usually, is what I'm saying, at least goes a couple matches in. Rarely do you see him knocked out in the very first round. And so I think that's what's allowed him to kind of stay up here and stay in the conversation and stay in the top 10 is, yeah, he hasn't completely broken through yet, but that's not the only measure of success, And so he's there. He's keeping himself at least in the conversation, and maybe one day he'll find a way to calm down and finally break through. But
no, that's a good point. Like you're saying, there's not only four tournaments in the season. It's a very long, grueling ATP season. A lot of points to be had, and the Grand Slams, though they are the biggest point value, and they are the most prestigious tournaments. There are only 4 of them, and there's many other tournaments. So number 8 is Matteo Berrettini, who I personally didn't even know who he was until Wimbledon, and he's had a fantastic year. I want to talk more about his stats and how much he's impressed me watching him. Number 9, we have Bautista Agut. Always enjoy watching him. Seems like he continuously improves every year. This is about what I expect his ceiling to be, but still he's able to grind out a lot of these matches and play well. And then Monfils 10, and then sitting right outside the top 10 is one of your guys, David Goffin at 11. So interesting top 10. I don't know if I would have predicted maybe Medvedev or Berrettini.
Or Monfils.
Other guys, yeah, they're right up there. Their talent, they are living up to their talent. And noticeably absent, right? You have Kyrgios not there, Murray not there, injured. Stan is still recovering from injuries. So some other guys, maybe Kyrgios will not, but Murray and Stan will be interesting to see if they can regain the top 10 glory.
Where is Stan right now?
I believe he's 16. 16, okay. Yep. And Murray's like out of the top 300, I think is what I read. He's way out there.
Yeah.
So I'm predicting at least one of them can make it into the top 10. Most likely Stan. But, yeah, it'll be really interesting. Murray was saying the latest thing, he doesn't have hip pain. I don't know if he's just saying that or trying to do positive thinking, but hopefully, hopefully we can see him play well at Australian Open. So,
yeah. And that's fantastic, right? I mean, we thought he was going to play one more match just to be able to retire after playing a match, and he would be done. But yeah, he's talking like he's going to try to compete again, which is fantastic. It's great to see that.
Yeah, he has such a love of the game, which is cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, he doesn't need to do it for the money. He's already won a lot of slams. He's for Andy Murray in Great Britain, for crying out loud, right? He has the respect, but he loves the game, which is cool to see. But I want to go back to, let's look at Berrettini. So he was one, especially in the indoor hardcourt season. Interesting seeing him beat really good guys, Raonic, go toe to toe with Hatchinoff and all these other really good players. He's such a tall guy. I believe he's he's got to at least be 6'6", 6'5" on his height. But he moves so well. Been really, really impressive. So I looked at his numbers from last year when I didn't even know who he was in 2018 compared to his 2019 numbers. And here's what I came up with as far as improvements. So the biggest improvements I noticed on aces, he's acing almost 2% of the time more, up to 11% in his matches. So obviously a huge server, and he's getting even better at picking his spots there. For the first serve points won, he's improved by 3%, pretty dang significant. And he really does do a good job of doing that first strike tennis. But even when he's playing against a good returner, he's not afraid to grind it out either, or get to the net. He does have a great variety. One of the things I love to see when he does is when he's playing a baseliner who's staying far back, he goes to that drop shot on the forehand side quite a bit. And it can be a very successful shot for him. So it's interesting to see his game style. And then, so overall, he's winning 4% more service games. So marginally better on the second serve points won. It's really the first serve. He's getting better at those patterns of first serve and then hitting his next powerful shot. On the return, slightly better. The biggest one, so he's almost 2% better on the second serve return points. And maybe figuring out if he needs to attack a little bit more. Some players are kind of confused what to do on second serve. They're afraid to overhit it and to miss, but also they don't just want to hit it back and let the other guy have the advantage. So maybe more experience has helped him. He does seem like he's pretty deliberate now, being more aggressive on that second serve return. But the big one, maybe it's mental, because he's winning 6% more break points, and otherwise he's not really doing anything different on serve. His first serve return points are about the same. Second serve, almost 2%. So, but he's winning quite a few more break points. So interesting. Maybe he's just coming up with the goods more, able to convert. And so overall, he's winning almost 3% more return games. So overall, in 2019, he won 13% more matches than 2018. So obviously, that's going to translate to a rise in the rankings, which it has. He's at a career high, number 8 in the rankings, and just really impressed with the guy. Hopefully he can continue to find ways to improve. A lot of these taller guys, you don't see them move as well, but he's kind of an exception to that for sure. Really good player.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's interesting. He went from that 13% matches won, so he was at 50%, and he went up to 63%. So yeah, that means that in 2018 he was losing what? So he may win the first round, but he's losing second round almost every time.
Yep. Exactly.
At best. So, yeah, nice to see he's, up to 63%, making a few more runs. I'm sure Wimbledon obviously helps those numbers because he went pretty far in Wemby.
And he played so well. I mean, Federer did dismantle him in straight sets. Before that, he was playing so well.
It's true.
140-mile-an-hour bombs. It's like, okay, what can he do? And the guy was moving great on the grass. Some other tall guys, they struggle to move on the grass.
Right. Isner, Exhibit A.
Yeah, Isner, kind of Exhibit A there. But he was kind of playing more like a Raonic, when he's not had his injuries. Just been really impressed with Berrettini. Because, again, for me, he came out of nowhere. I didn't know who the guy was, to be honest. So let's go with Tsitsipas. So looking here at the numbers between 2018 and 2019, obviously he had a breakout season in 2018. That's when everyone knew his name. He went pretty far at Wimbledon. He beat Djokovic in one of the hard court Masters 1000s tournaments. I think he beat 3 top 10 guys in that tournament can't remember if it was Cincinnati or Montreal, but one of the hard court warm-up tournaments for the U.S. Open. But in 2019, he did even get better somehow, which he was pretty good in 2018. So his first serve percentage went up 6%. He was able to this year win about 1% more points on his first serve. Second serve, kind of weird. It went actually down 1%. So don't know what really to make of that, but still not at a bad number. 53% is what he was at in 2019. So still a good, decent number, but it's just odd to me that it went down. Everything else pretty much went up on his serve. He was able to save more break points. As we saw against Roger, he saved 90-something% of his break points. And here he was able to save almost 2% more break points this season compared to 2018. And so overall, he's able to serve or to win about 1% more service games. Then you look at his receiving numbers, mostly the same. He was able to do a little bit better on the first serve return by 2%, almost 2.5%. So don't know what to make of that. Maybe just able to read some serves better, or I don't know exactly because that one to me seems more, what's the word, kind of reflex oriented or yeah. I mean, second serve return points is where you can see some dramatic improvement, like team year after year. Nadal somehow gets better year after year, but first serve return points that's kind of a harder one from my experience looking at it.
I feel like maybe it's just, being on the tour longer, getting to know your opponents better. I mean, now he's played at least the Big Four and a few others a couple times. And so maybe he's like, more comfortable with himself than on the court with these players, as well as more comfortable with their games, maybe able to guess a little bit better.
I agree with that, especially because you go, well, okay, I think Federer's going to go up the tee with this one. Is where he likes to go when he's in trouble. And, Of course, he could go out wide, but maybe he's kind of sitting on some more serves where he's like, yeah, I'm ready to take this one. So, like you said, maybe more familiar with opponents, more comfortable in the court. But, again, interesting, he was worse on the second serve return points. He won 2% less. And then break points, even more puzzling, 4% worse, 2019 to 2018. So overall, he actually won about the same. It says less. He won about the same amount of return games won, at 20%. So a little bit weird, but overall, I think the serve numbers by that 1% helped enough because he improved. He still won 8% more matches won. So to me, just looking at these numbers, some of them being kind of puzzling, and I think based on, especially watching the World Tour Finals, I think this guy can get even better in 2020. If he can get better at returning on the second serve points, being deliberate, being aggressive, or just, I guess, having a game plan, not being tentative or missing, and then doing better on his second serve, winning those points. So, yeah, I feel like a couple easy areas to improve, winning more break points. Not that that's easy. It's, it's a mental game for sure, but it just seems like he's better than what the numbers show. So I wonder if he's going to have even better 2020. I'm really excited to see how he does at the Australian Open. And this is one of the unique guys where he's won title. He's won a clay court title. He's done well on the hard courts. And then he also does well on grass. He's one of those few guys, kind of like a Federer maybe, but maybe better on clay actually. Tsitsipas seems really good on every surface. And so I'm excited for his 2020.
I agree. I want to go back. I think that's interesting, the points you brought up, that he's winning fewer break points, but his return games won hasn't really changed. So I don't know. I look at that and say, okay, well, maybe he has more chances, more break chances. And so he's not winning as many, but he's still getting those breaks. And so he's playing more aggressive and having more opportunities in these break games.
Like you're saying, maybe he gets to 15-40 on his opponent's service game. He misses the first one. He doesn't get the first break point, but then he wins the second one or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. Kind of a weird anomaly there I didn't expect to see because obviously he's at a career high in his ranking. So I expected most of the numbers to be either the same or better, and some of them were significantly worse, right? So I just think the guy has a really high ceiling because he can play really good tennis.
I agree. Yep. And I agree with you about his kind of all court ability. a lot of these young guns, they at least start out kind of specializing in one, and maybe reach into another one as they progress. But from the get-go, he has seemed to be comfortable on all these courts, all these types. So That's great. I think it's cool to see and fun to watch for sure.
Right, or they have to adapt. Like Team, you could see he's been good on clay kind of from the beginning, but then had some really bad hard court stretches where he just couldn't win games. He would just struggle on his service range. Like, what's the deal? This guy's a decent serve. And then this year he wins Indian Wells against Federer in 3 sets. He does really good at least the World Tour Finals. Can't remember his result at the U.S. Open, but all of a sudden he becomes one of the better clay court or better hard court guys this year. Excuse me. Before that wasn't the case. So he obviously made some adjustments, kind of like Nadal. He had to make adjustments in order to win the U.S. Open, put more on his serve, flatten it out more, etc. But like you're saying, Tsitsipas is just naturally good at all of these surfaces, which is kind of weird to be honest. But it'll be interesting to see. Can he be in contention for multiple titles throughout the year? We'll see.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's higher seeded now, so he's not going to run into these guys super early. He's not going to run into Federer first round, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's not going to happen. So.
Yep, that should help.
All right, talk to us about Rafael Nadal. How big year did he have?
So he ended the year number 1, right? He won what? 2 of the 4?
2 of the 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, which is great. So you would think that, again, his numbers compared to 2018 would go up. And they didn't really. I would say they mostly just stayed the same.
Yeah.
If not got maybe just slightly a tad bit worse. So I think the most interesting thing, so I guess we can go through some of these. So his first serve percentage actually dropped by a percent. And in the return game, he dropped again by 1% on his first and second serve return points won. And as well as, again, just 1% drop in the break points won, breakpoint percentage win. But so, I mean, 1%, right? What's 1%? Probably not that much. He's pretty much just stabilizing, getting the points that matter. And that's what allowed him to really, I guess, make a run in US Open. And obviously in the French, he plays well and was able to overcome Team again. I think an interesting point is while his first serve percentage dropped a tad bit from 65.6 to 64.7, his first serve win percentage went up by 4%. So you made a point off air that, maybe he's been more aggressive on that first serve, which is, he definitely has been working on that serve, and definitely is playing more aggressive with his service. And so that makes sense to me, right? So he's, maybe that's causing him to miss a few more, but ultimately he's winning more on that first serve, which is, critical. It's super important. So he won 76% of his first serve points in 2019, which is great, which is really, really good. Overall, if you want to look at matches won, he actually dropped 3%. But here's the interesting thing I was looking at. I mean, we talk about these young guns coming up like, oh, wow, they, increased like 12%. But still, they're sitting at like 63% of their matches won. Even Tsitsipas was at 68% of his matches won. Rafa Nadal drops 3%, and he's at 89% of his matches won. And so it's like, and I'm sure it's this way with Djokovic. I'm sure it's this way with Fed. I don't have their numbers in front of me. It's just crazy to me to see that, right? I mean, we expect these guys to go deep in every tournament they're in because they do, and we're surprised when they drop from 92% down to 89% of their matches won. It's like pretty crazy. But obviously had a dominant year. Obviously got closer to Fed with that Grand Slam titles number. Maybe this year he can take them. We'll see what happens.
We will see. But I think you brought up some really good points because it is crazy. I'm looking at last year, 2018. So Nadal made one final in one Grand Slam final, and you could guess which one he won, which one he made the final, which one he won. It was the French Open, right? And 2019, he made 3 finals. So 2 more Grand Slam finals. He only won 2 of them only.
Should have been it should have been all 3. Man.
But just interesting, like you're saying. So you go from 2018 to 2019, like, yeah, he's way better because he made 3 finals compared to 1, and he won 2 compared to 1. Like you're saying, that's not what the numbers showed, which was interesting. But I think what you were pointing to with that first serve percentage points won, I think that's really the key, like you're saying. I mean, he already wins 59% second serve points won. That didn't change. That's an absurdly high number. And then you take his first serve points won, which 72% isn't bad, but it's not a Federer or even a Tsitsipas number. And he improves that to 76%. You know, if he's serving that good on first and second serves, 76% and almost 60%, you're probably not going to break the guy. That's what those numbers are telling me. And it's the guy that's known for his return and not for as good of a serve. So, I mean, if he can keep that up next year, I would pencil him in for at least 1, if not 2 slams, at least. Because those are some absurd numbers, especially like you said, when these guys are knocking on the door, and these guys are not pushovers, right? These guys playing good, team returns as well as anybody, right? So, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see if Nadal can keep those numbers up. But like you said, return game kind of went down, a couple percent, and ultimately he went down a couple percent in matches won, but still he's hovering close to 90% of matches won. So, an incredible year by Nadal. Interesting to see how these established players, these elite players of the game, somehow continue to reinvent themselves. He improves 4% on his first serve. He's been playing for years. It's astounding. It shows how much they love the game. It shows how they want to get better and try new things, right? He has a different coach, doesn't have his Uncle Tony anymore. And, his coach Moya, excuse me, I think he's helping to push his game to new heights. People are saying he was stale with Uncle Tony. I was a little bit, worried, wondering what it would be losing his uncle there. But I think it clearly has done good things for his game overall. Nadal's been very impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Uncle Tony did great things for him, forced him to learn left-handed, which, I mean, it's just insane in its own right. But, I think that relationship got a little stale. It's time for him to find some new perspective.
Right.
I think it's been a fantastic move for him. So.
Yeah, just like getting a new, offensive coordinator. Your playbook gets a little stale. It's time for some new, fresh perspective, like you're saying, some new ideas. Because Nadal's got a lot of great tools. You can just use them in different ways. And Moya's really helped him to be more aggressive on these points as he's getting older. So it's going to make him tougher to beat. So we'll see. Let's see. The last bit. Let's do a prediction here. Who do you got for 2019 or 2020? Winning slams. Anybody in particular?
Man, as much. So, and that's the interesting thing, right? Obviously, it depends on the slam. We can sit here and say, "Oh, Rafa's a lock for the French." I don't know. I mean, team gets closer every year, and Rafa's not getting any younger. As good as he is, and as much as he keeps improving himself and changing himself, there's going to come a day, and I think we saw that maybe with Fed a little bit this year, kind of just a little bit of at least a plateau. I'm not saying there was any drop there, but I don't know. I felt like Fed looked very human this year for some reason. But I think Rafa's going to get to that point soon at some point. So I could see team, if we're looking for, maybe a surprise or some upstarts or some new faces, at least, I could see team easily taking the French if he gets some things to fall right for him. And Tsitsipas, man, if he can play as good as he played this year, and Medvedev as well, they can increase their stamina a little bit and get continue working on that consistency. I could see them doing some good things, taking at least one of the 2 hard courts. Joke is always around. I think he had some injuries here at the end of the year, which messed him up a little bit. I'm sure he'll be healthy coming in, and he loves the Aussie. Always plays well at the Australian Open. Always plays well everywhere, but there especially.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, he's always a force to be reckoned with. Always makes me nervous when Yeah, when Rafa goes up against him or somebody that I want to see play well. So that's the thing, right? I mean, we always go back to the big four. Fed's always a force. He's always, especially when Wimbledon rolls around, he's always going to be there. Always a heavy favorite. But I don't know. And I know we say this every year. We said it at the end of 2018. Some of these young guns are finally going to start breaking the barrier. And I think, this year is a riper field than ever for some real changes to finally start happening. So we'll see what happens. I don't think
it's almost like the odds
are gonna make it to the Grand Slams if we're going, all the way down. I think I don't know. Maybe Wawrinka will. Murray, I think that hip surgery was huge, and it's awesome to see him back. It's awesome to see him playing, but I think it's going to take a lot for him to really compete in at least the 4 Grand Slams.
Yeah. So, ultimate prediction: are we going to see some new Slam winners, or are we going to see more of the same? Djokovic times 2, Nadal times 2.
We're going to do it. It's going to happen this year. Someone's going to break through.
Okay, and if you have to pick a guy, Nadal or Djokovic, let's say only one of them gets multiple slams. Which one gets multiple slams this year, if any?
I got to go with Rafa.
Okay.
Yep, he's just too good at the French, and then he just needs one more.
Okay. And it's weird to say this because he was so bad at the U.S. Open for so many years, but. If I had to pick a second one, I wouldn't pick Wimbledon and I wouldn't pick Australia. I would pick U.S. because it just seems by that point in the season, Federer and Djokovic weirdly has a problem there, not doing super good there. It seems like it's kind of Nadal, but
and that's the interesting thing, right? I mean,
young guns could break through there at the U.S.
Who?
I think one of the young guns could break through at the U.S. though, which Medvedev almost did this year, right? But
he sure did. He got close.
So. Yeah. All right. Well, those are some good predictions. I'll go ahead and make my predictions. I also think we will have a new Slam winner this year. If I had to be forced to narrow it down, I would say between Tsitsipas and Thiem, one of those two guys is going to win a Slam. I don't want to necessarily put too much of a burden on one of them, but all my eggs in one basket, as you could say. But I think one of those guys will walk away with a Slam this year. I think the rest of the Slams could be business as usual. I hope. I do think Federer could take a Slam this year, take Wimbledon, get some revenge if he faces Djokovic or whoever he faces, because that was very bitter this year, I think.
I think it's going to take more management, right? So I know there has been a rising voice of I don't know, displeasure by fans and old tennis pros alike of the match management or the tournament management of some of these big four. As they get older, they decide not to play in some of the bigger tournaments. And, the old guys say, well, when I was playing, I played every tournament, everything I could, whatever. But it's just the way it is. The sport, as the years progress in every sport, the physicality of it just gets more and more and more extreme and requires so much more of these athletes. And so I think, and I know Fed and Rafa have already been doing it. I think the reason that Rafa was so good at the U.S. Open this past year is because he managed his playtime so much there at the end of the season. I think Fed, in order to really compete there, will have to do the same to a greater extreme than he has been in the past.
Yeah.
And I think Joke's going to have to start thinking that way too, because he's starting to get injuries racking up.
Yeah. Well, that was the other point I wanted to make too with Nadal, right? The years he kind of usually wins 2 slams. The next year he usually regresses and only wins the 1. Yeah. Kind of like the economy doesn't always go up. you have some corrections. It feels like Rafa with the injuries keeps him at least humbled, unfortunately. But I wonder if this year will be an injury year, just because it seems like it's kind of cyclic with Rafa. Not hoping that on him, of course, but he plays a lot of mileage, and his game style is a little bit physical. But maybe that's why Carlos Moya is trying to get him to be more aggressive on that first serve. So I don't know, but I wonder if we'll see that this year. I really do think Federer last year had a great season, really up until Wimbledon. It was a season of 2 halves, right? He won Miami. He lost to Tsitsipas in Australia, sure, but he recovered from that pretty well. He won Dubai, made the Indian Wells final, lost it. Such a close match to Thiem. Really credit to Thiem. Won Miami, and then won the grass warm up there, And then at Wimbledon, played amazing tennis and unfortunately lost that heartbreaker. And then from there on, wasn't really the same. Don't know if he was exactly injured, but just didn't play with the same gusto. So I just wonder if he gets off to a better start this season, if he can right the ship. And it seems like he does this sometimes. He claims to move on pretty quickly, and I think he does, but it affects the season. Like the year, I think it was 2018, where he had match points against Del Potro in Indian Wells. Mm-hmm. Kind of from that point on, because he won the Australian Open, so he was amazing there, right? Beat Cilic. And then he made the Indian Wells final, had match points over Del Potro, lost it, and then from then on, the season was totally different. He didn't play well really at all after that. So it's just kind of a weird year. I wonder if some of these losses kind of stick with you when you have fewer chances in between. So I really do hope, and I do think Federer can pull off a major this year.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be easy. Tsitsipas dismantled him this year. He has a lot to think about. He's struggling breaking Tsitsipas. It's the weirdest thing. And I think Australian Open could be the most wide open it's been in a long time, because though Djokovic and Federer to a lesser extent for a couple years, 2017, 2018, it's been their tournament. I think people are going to be hungry as ever. So I just wonder, the first major of the year, everyone's rested and they're hungry.
Yep. Don't get me wrong.
But obviously,
Fed's always a force, and he's always a favorite at Wimbledon. He's always a heavyweight in all these other ones. I mean, yeah, I could see that easily. See Fed having a great year.
Yeah, but he also needs to be healthy too, just like Nadal. They're not getting younger, so
absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, we've made a lot of good predictions, and hopefully we've recapped 2019, giving it justice. It's been a lot of great tennis this last year. A lot of great new faces. The young guns getting even better. We didn't even talk about Alex de Minaur winning the next gen finals. There's some other really exciting players knocking at the door, but we're looking forward to 2020 and the great matches that hopefully lie in store for us. So as always, visit us at cognitionsphere.com. Our theme music today is brought to us by Kevin MacLeod with excerpts from his song Cool Rock. And until next time, we'll see you on the court. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. And if you enjoyed any of these episodes or this episode that you listened to, feel free to post about it on social media.